let's take like, what I'm trying to do with all of these different ideas is look at the same ideas in different ways. So so here, like, let's take motion to one side and just look at what happens when we have to work with creatures that don't have human anatomy. Like, I don't mean animals. Like, we might have time to quickly look at how it works on an animal, which is the same. But let's say that this guy's got 4 arms, which is like, you see problems like this fairly frequently. You know, I spent 2 years on John Carter and hit that every day, but and it worked fine, you know. But you can see that the way that problem was solved was just to go, well, okay, we've got that stuff, so let's try and duplicate that and move it down there and see if we can get it to fit in, and that will work, you know, to an extent. I think it'll work, but what I'm interested in exploring here is just like, if you're going, no, I'm using anatomy in a way where I'm controlling it and I'm the master of it. It means that you don't have to do that. You can just go, well, let's think about it in terms of pure function. And so this is for me, like, really powerful and really fun. I really enjoy thinking about this, either in terms of the concept stage or at the shot sculpting stage. Just like, how do I sell this as a living, breathing thing? So let's take a similar sort of problem and go, okay, let's look at some lower arms through here, and go, okay, well, you know, the lower arms could be just bolted onto the body, and we could ignore the problem of the shoulder girdle, and then we could just have, like, you know, so we'd have like a humerus through there, and then if we need to pull that in different directions, we just need muscles like that, right? And that would that as a concept, you might have to refine it a little bit, but as a concept would basically work, right? And if you look at an animal ear, that's the construction there, right? A horse or something like that has this full range of mobility in the ears. It's basically that's the ear, muscles all the way around, and it pulls it in every direction. So it's a construct that exists, and if we had no shoulder girdle, we could invent something like that. If we want to put a shoulder girdle in, then it's kind of, there's no reason to mirror the scapula. We may as well make something that's scapula shaped so that we have repetition of a unity of design, right? But maybe in this case it's much smaller. I'm still looking for the same 2 points, just the spine of the scapula through there, and this medial border of the scapula there, and then we've got the head of the humerus, and then so maybe we go, okay, well, this guy has a clavicle as well, and maybe there's a point of articulation with like one of the ribs through there, and that's where the clavicle's coming from. So maybe that's my bony structure, and then if I'm happy with that as a bony structure, then step 2 is just going, well, let me just put muscles on it that's going to allow that to move. And we know the mechanics of muscles is super simple, right? Go from here, go to that, pull that. So if I want to be able to pull the scapula inwards, then I need something like the rhomboids. Something like the rhomboids. It could be, I could mirror the shape of the rhomboids, or I could do something completely different, right? We could have maybe there could be a form that comes off that scapula, or it could have one form that comes through there, and that pulls it up, and then we have like another one through there that pulls it in, and then maybe maybe instead of having another one that pulls down, the obliques have adapted, and so they are grabbing hold of this and they're pulling it down. So maybe, you know, something like that. These could be diving underneath the lumbar muscles, in which case you wouldn't see them. This kind of, you know, it's up to you. So, and then through here we would have something like a deltoid. There's no reason to make it not like a deltoid. Like I make this mistake all the time. Like if I'm concepting stuff and I'm thinking I'm really clever, so I make stuff that is intentionally not like a human. It's like, well, just, you know, whatever works. So here we could probably just make something that is pretty deltoidy. Right? I mean, the deltoid is a sensible construction. It's broken into 3 separate parts: one that pulls it forward, one that pulls it in the middle, and one that pulls it at the back. But like, you know, all of the rhythms, all of the movements of the deltoid that make it feel alive, we can take them and steal them if we want. But if what we're studying when we study anatomy is actually how to make things move and feel like they're alive, then we can come up with our own rhythms that still address that same idea. right? Ultimately, like even when we're working with realism, with absolute clinical photorealism, everything's a fake, obviously. So instead you're just, well, I would say you're just chasing down like how to make a thing believable, and that's not necessarily through accuracy, although sometimes it is. So here the deltoid will move the humerus. We'd have to have some way of moving the clavicle. Maybe the obliques would do that, and maybe they would be more developed through there. So we could see something like that. Anyway, I don't want to push this too far because it's not, we're not talking about concepting here, but like I say, regardless of concept, whether it's at the concepting stage or whether it's at the shot sculpting stage, for me those are the two like really exciting times when I can just take these ideas and play with them, and it's like for me so much more fun and what, like, well, that's what I want to do, like if I was doing a werewolf, maybe that's an interesting example. Like if you're assigned with that as a task, you can go, okay, I take bits of a man and I take bits of a wolf and I find where those things meet. But you understand the very simple concepts that we're talking about, hopefully fairly simple at least. You create the thing that is right for its DNA. That's for me, that's crazy fun. So it's kind of difficult, like within the production pipeline that we have, because if you're doing a concept out, like if the concept is done out of house, ideas like this definitely won't get carried through, and everything will at some point average out and become probably fairly human. But anyway, whether I'm dealing with super realism or super imagination, that's the idea, right? Just the same ideas repeating, just applying them in a different way. So now quickly to kind of round off this thought, let's then pose this and just see what would happen. So like the same idea, right? He pulls his shoulder girdle back. Something like that happens. So we know that potentially like this would pull it up, but maybe this is also helping pull it back. So this is becoming tense. Like notice, by the way, like when I'm trying to convey that tension through there, I look for the area where it's tense, but also the area around it. This down here is maybe a better opportunity to talk about that. Like if I was finding wrinkles through there, like I find that like. So let's say the guy's leaning back, right? So here we have a hot spot of compression. We'll have a bunch of wrinkles through there. What you want to find is, yes, the wrinkles, but also like what I would call the ripple effect or the wave effect, right? So this is the hot spot through there, but then how does it affect that area and that area and that? And if you're working with that, then you'll start to have a finished feel, especially like in shot sculpt, because in shot sculpt you can get away with a lot, but it'll be important for shape work as well, where you don't have this feeling that everything is isolated and that when this movement happens, it happens there, and that movement happens there. It's like, so if I'm looking at wrinkles, I'm interested in the wrinkles themselves, but also like, let's say the wrinkle that was almost a wrinkle, like it didn't quite buckle round, but something like that happened, and then there's a knock-on effect just like maybe through there, something like that. Well, I guess my symmetry's skewed there, but just some impact through there. I mean, obviously in facial work, that all becomes super relevant, super important. So whether it's compression or stretching that I'm looking at, I'm primarily interested in that main movement, but then I'm also going other things. Like that movement is going to be happening under skin. What happens to the skin, and what influence does that have? And yeah, with facial work, it's an easy way to look at that, because it's like you move the lips and the ears start to move and all of that stuff. Anyway, so he's pulling it back. So we're having that tensing through there. And then maybe this is tensing through here, right? We were saying there's another one through there. And then here, this all gets thinned out. So whatever your rule is for extension, doesn't matter. Mine is that the mass thins out and we see a little bit more definition. So maybe something like that. Okay, but you see like the scapula isn't moving, but those muscles are operating. So then it's like, okay, that isn't going to work. That's going to feel hokey all day long, because those aren't, you can see that movement of the muscle is not related to muscle of the bone. So I'm not going to fix it, but it's like that's what I would be going in and looking to fix. And through here, hopefully that's Yeah, so there, that's making a bit more sense, right? You get a feeling that those muscles are pulling that bone back. So, so yeah, when I'm working with concept or when I'm working with realism, well, for me, when I'm working with realism, it's still concept. You know, you're still thinking about story.